Hi, my name is Marta Zarate, and I'm one of the peer navigators at Christie's place. So I'm going to share my story. Everything happened when I was 6 years old that I lost my mother, and then I stayed with my father. When I was 9 years old, I was being abused by him sexually. Well, I was being abused until I turned 12 years old. And then after that, I came to the United States to live with one of my sisters. And when I was staying with her, I was also being abused by her husband. And I never say nothing because I was very scared of what he could do to her. So I just keep myself quiet. So I was also being abused by him.
My name is Blount, and I'm a peer navigator with Christie's Place. I've been a peer navigator for 3.5 years. Let me tell you a little bit about my history. I'm the youngest child of 5, and basically a single mother because, growing up she had several different partners, and we grew up in an alcoholic home and an abusive home. I remember when, just as a child, witnessing my mom getting beat up and going to jail and being drunk, and, it was so normal that, we didn't think nothing of it really because it was that was just a daily part of our life.
So when I turned 13 years old, I was trying, to get out of the house. I remember the first time that I went out for a party, I met this person that, I thought he was fun and everything. So I remember that was the first time that I drank some alcohol. And I remember it was only like 3 cups of vodka. So when I woke up, I was by myself with this person who was like 12 years older than me. So I didn't want to go back to my house because, I was afraid of my sister getting mad at me. I just made this person to take me with him. And I started living with this guy when I was 13 years old. So I spent like 4 years of my life living with him, suffering a lot because he was like, he was an asshole. He was, going out with other women because I was just a little girl. That's when I started drinking. And when I turned 17 years old, I left this person. So I went back to Mexico, and I was always trying to do something with my life, which I couldn't because I was always like having difficulties, with my other sister. It was a lot of domestic violence in the house, and all the time it was like yelling and drinking, and it was a mess. So I just tried to do something for myself, so I left, and that's when I started drinking so bad, real bad. So there was like 3 years of my life like only drinking, and then I went to this other city where I started prostituting myself because I needed to survive. So that was the only way that I can make it. That was on my mind, because I didn't have no experience at all. So that's when I started prostituting myself, at least for 3 years. But one day when I was like kind of tired of the way I was drinking and trying to do something else with my life, I came back to Ensenada where I was born, and then I see my other sister who asked me to come back to the United States. And when I see that, I see it's an opportunity for me to change my life. And the first thing I thought it was like, now I'm gonna get, American money. Now I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna stop drinking, and everything is gonna be different. I can take care of myself and do something different. So when I came here, my sister supported me real good, and she also helped me with my documentation and everything. And I started working. But also the first thing that I did was like in the house that I went with my nieces, they were using not only alcohol but drugs. So to be part of that place and part of them, I started using drugs. And it was also difficult because I didn't want to do it, but like I said before, it was a type of surviving, and I needed to do it. So that's how I started getting involved in drugs.
So at the age of 12, I started smoking weed. And when I was 12, that was also the year my father died. which was very, very hard for me. I was very close to my father, and we did a lot of great things together, and so I missed him a lot. Yeah, I didn't know this, but I was sexually assaulted by my stepbrother when I was about 12 or 13 as well, and I didn't realize it because it felt good. So I thought it was just me being fast, and maybe I initiated it even though I know I didn't. I said no, but he still continued on, and and I didn't. It just shocks me to look back on it and having to look at it as abuse, because all these years I didn't know it was. So I got into heavier drugs in high school. I would have lots of sex partners. I was just trying to find that love in my life, and just, that acceptance and all that stuff. So I would have sex at the drop of a dime, and so I was doing a lot of drugs and not really doing well in school. Ended up not graduating. I got pregnant, and my baby was premature, and when I brought her home, she lived for 5 months and 13 days. And I carry a lot of guilt behind that because I was young and really didn't have any family assistance to help me take care of this sick child, and she died. That's when I started smoking crack. And my baby, I had a lot of guilt and shame, and so I started smoking crack when I was about 19, and with crack, it comes prostitution and strawberrying, which is having sex to get dope. And I did whatever it took to maintain my high. And along with that came those partners that beat you and want to control you. And I accepted all that because I thought it was love. I thought the men that put their hands up, I thought if you didn't do that, you didn't love me.
This man, which I thought, it was a perfect match for my life, because he was like a good worker, and it looks like a good gentleman, and I thought he was the man of my life. So I just started getting involved with him, and in a very short time I got married with this person. So I spent most of my life with him, and I think after a year living with this person, I started again suffering because he was going out with a woman. He was like such a liar, and making me a hard time all the time. So, and then I couldn't have babies, so it was very difficult. But I was like, I didn't have no other options, and then that's how I got it also more involved with drugs. And so I spent like 22 years living with this person. Actually, after 22 years, that's when I found out that I was, one day I just didn't feel good. I went to the doctor, and I found out that I was pregnant. So I thought that was going to change everything, right? Because now I'm having a baby, he's going to be happy, and we're going to make the perfect family. That's what I thought. I thought it was the thing that we needed to be a family. And I thought that, that way he was going to love me. But no, it didn't happen. And I told him that I was pregnant, and he was like, well, I don't know if it's mine or not. And then 2 days after that, they called me back from the clinic, and they said that I was HIV positive. And that was very, very strong. It was like huge letters in my mind, thinking yes about HIV. I thought I was gonna die. I thought I was gonna, what do I have in my stomach, I thought that my life was gonna change, but after that notice, it was difficult. So, for me it was like, I got infected because I was using needles, because I was trying, needles with my niece, which she was a drug addict, and never thought about being my husband infecting me, and when I went and tell him, he was like, see, I'm telling you, you're a drug addict, and then it was a lot of struggle with him, and well, I thought it was, I'm gonna die tomorrow, so you just go and check yourself and get tested, and it was hard. But the person that gave me the orientation, she said, if you stop using drugs and if you start your treatment for HIV, there's a possibility that your daughter can born, negative for HIV. And I was like, I didn't believe her. I didn't trust in them because I actually didn't believe nothing. But I gave myself an opportunity and I stopped using drugs and I started my medication for HIV, and it did work. So when my daughter was born, she was born negative, and that was my miracle. It was, oh my God, it was a thing that changed my life and opened my mind. And in the moment, I was thinking, now I don't care about him. I will change my life. I'll do anything for my daughter and for myself. And it took me time because, after she was born, I went back to drugs because it was hard living with this person, but I tried my best. And when I started seeing my daughter growing up, and they were telling me at the hospital that she was, because they were testing her every month, so she was like negative and negative. After 3 years, they say, well, she's negative and you don't have to worry about nothing. And that was a mission for me. Now I have to start doing something for myself, and that's how I started getting involved in support groups for women, for positive women.
So, at 28 or so, I got really sick and didn't know what was wrong with me. I've been in and out of jail. I went to prison a couple of times. The last time I got out of prison, which was the end of 95, I got sick and with a cold that I couldn't get over. Then I started losing weight and I couldn't eat very much, and it came to a point where I wasn't even able to eat or swallow ice or water. And after months of being misdiagnosed, I ended up in an ER, and a young intern looked in my mouth and asked me had I ever been, had anybody offered me an HIV test, because what he saw in my mouth was thrush. And I hadn't, I've been to several community clinics and a couple of ERs, and nobody knew to ask me that, even though I was very forthcoming with my past and my behaviors. And so he gave me the test and put me in the hospital, and it came the next day to tell me I had AIDS with a CD4 count of 116. And I was devastated, but then at the same time I was relieved, because I finally knew what was wrong with me, because I knew I was dying, or I believed I was dying, and it was good to know what I was dying from. So I stayed in the hospital about a week. Once I got out, I got connected with a wonderful organization, Desert AIDS Project, and they did everything for me. They got me on meds. They, just the whole ordeal was devastating to my family and to me. But I had an advocate in me already. I didn't know it, but I did because I felt it was my responsibility to go to my neighborhood and tell the people that I had gotten high with, the people I was having sex with, and the young people that HIV was not only affecting our gay men, it was now affecting the women. And, just riding through trying to get people to go get tested, even though nobody would, and not, at least not with me. And to this day, I don't know if anybody has tested positive from my neighborhood. Not sure. If they have, they are not open with their status.
And I started learning a lot. I started learning that I was not going to die from this, and I started learning that if I get informed, I can help others. And then I saw women coming behind me, crying and all devastated, all struggling with this notice that, I started feeling like strong, and I started, getting, trying to get more informed and try to help them, and that's how I start getting more involved in the community, and then they offered me a job as a volunteer peer advocate. And I was so interested that I started getting involved in everything that has to be with HIV. I started meeting with women, and it was a passion. After that, it was a passion, just to make those women feel that nothing is going to happen. You're going to survive. All you have to do is take care of yourself, and attend your doctor appointments, take your medication on time, and if you want to be part of this and help other women, just get involved and get educated. It was so beautiful and so strong for me that I started like this big passion, and I didn't stop. I just started going, and then they offered me a job, and so it was like more motivation for me, and the same feeling I wanted to just transmit it to the other woman, and it started working. So we started doing some groups and all that, and then one day I found out about a woman's retreat, positive woman retreat that Christie's place was doing, and I went to that retreat, and it was awesome seeing this many women that were positive like me, and I was like surprised that I thought it was only me at the beginning, but when I see this huge group, I want to have some more words, some more time to talk to all of them, and make them feel that it was. I know it's awful, but it's worth it to try to survive. And so in that time, one person, that staff member from Christie's place, offered me a job in here. And I don't even know how to type or open a computer, or not even my English. My English was so awful. And I told her, I don't think I can do this job, because she offered me to be a family caseworker, and I'm like, I don't know how to speak English. I don't know how to, move a computer. And she was like, well, this is a perfect place for you to learn. And I said, well, okay, if you say so, if you give me that opportunity, I'll go for it. And that happened in September. So in January, I started working at Christie's place. I remember January 19, 2000.